welcome everybody to the October tier list. So we're going to just jump right in. We're going to talk about the what the tiers mean. We're going to use the same ones we've used for a while now. So we've got S through D. S tier is your god tier units, best units in the faction, arguably overpowered. Not necessarily overpowered. I'm not saying everything in S tier needs a nerf, but it's kind of like the units that everyone is playing or they are overpowered. A tier is very, very good units in the metagame right now. All the best decks pretty much are made up of A tier units, generally speaking. A and B tier, and S, of course. B tier units tend to make up the filler of those good decks. So the remaining units you can't do without, that sort of thing. C tier is playable. Nothing wrong with C tier, really. But they're not great. Like, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage, usually, when you put a C tier unit in your deck. Or there'll be something in the metagame that just heavily punishes you right now. A great example of this is snipers. Snipers are pretty powerful, but they're currently in C tier because catship exists. And if you play snipers against catship, it's almost an auto loss. And then finally, D tier units. D tier units I think are just not worth playing right now. Either there's just better options, like you should never really play them, or they're just a bad unit, like it's outright not very strong. Okay. Let's move on to the commander list, first of all. Here is the previous commander tier list, and here is the new commander tier list. So not much has changed here. Really, just Solomon moved back to B tier. I don't know, man. I don't think Solomon's that good still, but we discussed it. Like, I have a group of people who discuss this each month. I don't just work this out on my own. And pretty much everyone was like, oh, Reb Solomon's so popular still. Solomon should be B tier. It's really good, so... It's fine. I've put Solomon in B tier. I think it's kind of the deck itself is what pushes Solomon to B tier, not actually Solomon. I don't think, like, if you put Solomon in other decks, I think he's a lot worse. It's just this one deck where he's strong and it's a very popular deck. But anyway, Solomon, he's in B tier now. Everything else is the same. Kayn is still okay, so he's in C, but he's just not the best. Seth and Oksana are both great, and you can play them in most decks. Strongarm, I think, is the strongest GDI commander, and Liang is still completely unplayable. Alright, so that's the commanders. Not a lot to say there. Let's move on to the Nod units. Here is Nod from last month, and now here is Nod this month. So a few changes here. It is official now. Catship is overpowered. Everyone agrees. I think last month most people were on. It was borderline. I was close to putting it in S tier, but I think having seen the tournaments and so on that we've had, I think everyone just agrees catship's just broken. It's way too good. Well, it's not way too good actually. It's too good. The main thing that's super OP about it is its structure damage right now. Its structure damage is insane. It like 2 shots a strong arm turret. It does outrageous damage to the base even without chem unit nearby. It doesn't even need the explosion. It just does quite a lot of damage per shot. So yeah, it's not just that makes it overpowered. Like, it's also an insane anti-infantry unit. If you don't micro well against it, it can beat things like bikes and buggy 1v1, which obviously should counter it. So yeah, catship pretty good right now. Pretty good. I've left Fanatics in S tier. Some people are thinking this should be A now because of the prevalence of catship. I believe the Fnatic deck is the other option for Nod, really. I actually think there's quite a lot of Nod decks you can play at the moment. But the Fanatics and the catship decks stand out as the best two. So yeah, I still think Fanatics are too strong. 2 Fanatics on defense beats pretty much everything, including Confessors. That's outrageous. So yeah, left them in S. The other changes, we've got Scorpion is now back in A tier. I think Scorpion's really good at the moment, honestly. I think the Scorpion Buggy decks are actually very strong. I think Buggy's very strong. And I think Scorpion is basically a requirement to pair with Buggy at the moment. You need to have the Scorpion so that when people make bikes or pitbulls to kill your Buggy, you can punish them. And that combination is very, very strong. Like I say, Nod has a lot of options right now that are all viable. There's Inferno decks, there's Chuggy decks, there's Fnatic decks, there's Catship decks. There's a lot of viable Nod decks, and that is shown by the amount of A tier units Nod has. You can see there's a bunch of A tier units that Nod has. You can make a bunch of different decks out of these A tier units. When we get to GDI, you'll see that it's a much sadder state of affairs for GDI, which is why GDI doesn't have very many viable decks right now. But yeah, Nod can do a lot of different stuff. I think Scorpion deserves its slot back in A. Tanks have always been very powerful. The only thing that kept Scorpion down was the Razorback and Shade meta. The fact that everyone on both factions was just an air deck Now GDI is back to being more of a War Factory build, and the Scorpion is very good there. And it's only really Shade that punishes you from Nod. So yeah, I think Scorpion's pretty strong again. Let's talk about what's gone down. So chems have gone down. This is twofold. Firstly, Catship poops on them. Like, Catship makes chems a lot worse because it kills them so easily. But also, the Jade is just not really good anymore. Like, Jade hasn't been good for a while. Jade hasn't been good since it stopped being good at base killing, which is also largely part due to the fact that there's buggies and Catships around to stop the chems getting there. But because no one's really playing Jade, there isn't really a reason to play Chem Warriors. You just play Fanatics or Catship or Chuggy instead as your anti-infantry, or even just Buggy. So yeah, like, no one's really playing Chems that much anymore. They're pretty uncommon these days. So yeah, Chems down to C. Not really because the unit itself is that bad, just because there's a lot of better options. It's still an okay choice, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, which is why it's in C. Finally, I've put Scavenger in D. Rip the Scavengers. They were like almost a laser analog for a long time, but the fact they're a 3-man squad makes them even worse against Catship. And I recently, having played Scavengers some more, have realized that they don't even beat Shades, because Shades volley kills one guy from the squad. It does the same to lasers, but that's not a big deal because you still have 3 lasers, which is 3/4 of the squad. With Scavengers, you lose 1/3 of the squad, and then Shade reloads and kills the next guy. And then actually, I think Shades might beat Scavengers 1v1. I'm not 100% on that, but it's close enough that it's insane. Like, Scavenger should kill Shades, and it kind of doesn't. So yeah, also Catship just annihilates them. They're just kind of trash right now. I don't really see any reason to play Scavengers ever. Like, I would always just play lasers over Scavengers. So anyway, Scavenger now in D tier. Rip Scavengers. Also, as you can see, Flames still in D tier. If ever there was a reason for Flames to be in D tier, this metagame is it. Because the Catship, even more than the Razorback, the Catship makes Flames and Shocks embarrassingly bad. So this truly is the metagame where Flames and Shocks are at their absolute worst ever. And I already thought they weren't worth playing. So yeah, they are not good right now. I've also got Laser Drones in D. Every time I queue into someone using Laser Drones, I am baffled. I cannot believe anyone is still using Laser Drones. I think like -2 level Shades are still better than Laser Drones. Laser Drones are so bad right now. So I cannot believe anyone is still playing them. Having said that, I've met almost no one who is sad about this fact. I think everyone universally hated this unit, pretty much. So, yeah, I don't really see people complaining that Laser Drones suck. I think everyone is just happy to not play against Laser Drones. So, maybe Laser Drones just belong in the dumpster. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to GDI. So, here's the old GDI, and here is the new GDI. So, a few changes here. As you can see, GDI, a lot of units in C tier now. GDI is struggling, man. GDI has so few playable decks right now. There's like Reb Solomon, that is Dog, Rifle, Missile, Jump Jet, Pitbull, Drone Swarm, Talon, which is like all A and S, and Rifle, Missile, Pitbull, APC, Drone Swarm, Orca, which is the other A and S tier unit. That's the other A tier units, basically. And those are like the only 2 GDI decks I really see anymore. Nothing else. I mean, Alicia's playing this Razorback Titan deck that's kind of weird. And I don't like that deck very much, but no one else is playing it. Like, no one else is going, hey, Alicia's solved it, we should all play this deck. It's just her playing it. So, there is always Maximus as well, of course. There's Maximus with the Wolverine deck, but he's insane, and I don't know why he plays Wolverines. But moving on from that, yeah, there's pretty much like 2 viable GDI decks right now, and they use all of just the different combinations of A tier units that GDI currently has right now. I've moved Pitbull to S for a couple of reasons. The Slingshot is really bad now. I think the Pitbull doesn't have a lot of viable replacements. Almost every GDI deck plays Pitbull because it's just so good. It's the best unit GDI has, almost certainly. And the Catship meta makes it even better because there's people playing like Catship Shade to win Nod Mirrors, and Pitbull is one of the best units against that deck. So even though I believe Nod to be a lot stronger than GDI right now, the Pitbull is very good versus the Nod decks that are trying to beat other Nod decks. So Pitbull is very good in this metagame. Really, really good. I don't know why you'd ever not play Pitbull. I guess unless you're like a tech deck. If you're like a Rifle, Missile, Talon, Orca tech deck. That's the only reason not to play Pitbull. Okay, so let's talk about what's moved down. Mohawk is now C tier. The most recent nerf, which to be fair was a reasonable time ago, but like the Razorback nerf and the Mohawk nerf combined, there's not really a lot of reason. Used to play Razorback Mohawk as a deck. Now there's no reason to play that deck anymore. Mohawk is just inferior to Orca in almost all scenarios now. It's still like an okay unit. It's in C tier, not D, but it just like, you just basically never want to play it. You just always want to play Orcas at the moment. So yeah, see, it is in the playable but not recommended category. Joining it there are Zone Troopers and Snipers. Both of these units are there because of the Catship. Catship just makes both of these units bad. You don't want to spend 120 on a Zone Trooper to have your opponent's 50 cost unit counter it, or like almost completely counter it. Zones do win 1v1, but they take a lot of damage, and Catships are so cheap that comparatively, that you're not happy as a Zone Trooper player. And with Snipers, the same thing is true. Snipers cost 50, Catship costs 50. You can suicide your Catship to kill Snipers and have an even trade. And as long as you kill 2 Snipers, which will almost always happen, due to the weird Catship like locking on instantly thing, so it shoots at like 2 tile range quite often, you'll almost always get 2 of the Snipers, and then the Sniper Squad is useless. So even if you lose your Catship, you don't care. So it's pretty easy to just suicide Catships into Snipers over and over and still come out ahead. So yeah, sadly, Sniper, due to the Catship, and also like some people still play Razorback, and then Sniper sucks against that as well. So yeah, Sniper, it's a good unit, just the metagame is very bad for it currently. And then finally, Shatterer was in C tier because no one really knew. We hadn't tried it enough. I've tried it some now, and it sucks. It's just bad. It's a bad unit. It only really goes in like MSV decks, which are bad decks, and the unit kind of sucks. Even Dice, who is like the Shatterer king, is pretty off it when it comes to Shatterer. He doesn't really like it anymore. So yeah, Shatterer is now in D. I just don't think you should ever really play this unit. I don't know what they need to do to Shatterer. It's just such an awkward unit because it's like a big Rhino or Buggy that doesn't shoot up because it doesn't move while attacking like a Chuggy does. So you've got to move it into position, and then the opponent will just run their infantry away. Because why would anyone leave an infantry fighting a Shatterer? And then they'll move Raider units like Pitbulls and Predators and Scorpions in to kill it, or Shades. Like Shades are very popular still as well, and they one-shot them, I think, or close enough. So yeah, Shatterer it sucks. Don't play Shatterer. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure I will get many comments telling me why I'm wrong, which I always look forward to. And I will see you in the next video.